The smell hit me first. Expensive cologne mixed with something else I couldn't quite place. Something that didn't belong in my house. I stood in the doorway of our bedroom, still wearing my paramedic uniform from a brutal 12-hour shift, watching my wife Lana frantically stuff clothes into her overnight bag. Her hands were shaking, which was weird because Lana Brooks never got rattled. Not when she was closing million-dollar real estate deals, not when she was sweet-talking clients into buying overpriced condos, and definitely not when she was lying to me. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Going somewhere? I asked, dropping my medical bag by the door with a deliberate thud. She jumped like I'd fired a gun. Julian, you scared me. I thought you were working late tonight. Change of plans. Mrs. Henderson decided not to have her heart attack after all. I leaned against the door frame, studying her face. 24 hours ago, I would have believed whatever story she was about to spin. 24 hours ago, I was still stupid enough to think my wife loved me. I'm staying at Tara's tonight. Girls' weekend, remember? I told you about this last week. Right. The girls' weekend that materialized out of thin air yesterday morning. The same morning I'd found a text on her phone from someone named Sean. Can't wait to see you tomorrow night, beautiful. Of course, I said, forcing a smile. How could I forget? You and Tara painting your nails and gossiping about the neighbors. Lana's shoulders relaxed. She thought she'd won. Exactly. We'll probably stay up too late drinking wine and watching terrible movies. I watched her zip up the bag, noting the black lingerie peeking out from one corner. Funny thing about Tara, she'd been dating the same guy for 3 years and lived in a studio apartment barely big enough for one person. But hey, what did I know? I was just the husband. Have fun, I said, stepping aside to let her pass. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. She kissed my cheek, her lips cold and quick. Love you. The words hit like a slap. Love you too. I waited until I heard her car pull out of the driveway before I moved. Then I walked to our bedroom window and watched her taillights disappear down Maple Street. She turned left instead of right. Tara lived to the right. My phone buzzed. A text from my partner, Jake. Rough shift tonight, man. That accident on Route 9 was brutal. You okay? I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back. Been better. Thanks for covering for me with the paperwork. No problem. Get some sleep. Sleep. Right. Like that was going to happen. I walked to my workshop in the basement, a cramped space filled with the kind of electronic equipment most people didn't know paramedics collected as hobbies. Radio scanners, old medical monitors, and, yes, a few security cameras I'd bought after the Hendersons got robbed last month. The camera was smaller than a deck of cards, wireless, and completely invisible once I tucked it behind the picture frame on our dresser. The one holding our wedding photo, because I've always had a sick sense of humor. I spent the next hour testing the feed on my phone, adjusting angles, making sure everything worked perfectly. By the time I was satisfied, it was almost midnight. My phone rang. Lana. Hey babe, just wanted to say goodnight. Tara and I are about to start our movie marathon. In the background I could hear music, jazz specifically. Tara hated jazz, said it made her feel like she was trapped in an elevator. Sounds fun. What are you watching? Oh, you know, some romantic comedy from the 90s. Very cheesy. Well, don't let me keep you. Love you. Love you too. See you tomorrow night. She hung up. I sat in my basement workshop, staring at my phone, feeling something cold and sharp settle in my chest. Tomorrow night. She'd be back tomorrow night with stories about her wonderful girls' weekend, probably with some small detail that would make it all seem real. I'd been married to Lana for 4 years, together for 6. I knew her tells, her habits, the way she bit her lower lip when she was nervous and how she always touched her wedding ring when she lied. She'd been touching that ring a lot lately. My phone buzzed with a motion alert from the camera. My heart started pounding as I opened the app, expecting to see nothing but an empty bedroom. Instead, I saw my wife. She was back, but she wasn't alone. The man with her was tall, probably 6'2", with the kind of build that screamed expensive gym membership and personal trainer. Dark hair, square jaw, wearing a suit that cost more than I made in a month. He moved through my bedroom like he owned it, and the way Lana looked at him made my stomach turn. I watched them kiss in front of my dresser, watched him run his hands through her hair while she laughed at something he whispered in her ear. Watched her unbutton his shirt with the same fingers that had touched my face an hour earlier. The camera had excellent audio. "Are you sure he won't come home?" the man asked. His voice was deep, confident, the voice of someone who'd never worried about anything in his life. "Positive. He's working a double shift tonight, and even if he wasn't, Julian never questions anything I tell him. He's too trusting for his own good." Too trusting. Jesus. "Good," he said, pulling her closer. "Because I've been thinking about this all week." "Just all week?" she teased, and I had to mute the audio before I threw my phone against the wall. I sat in my basement workshop until 3 a.m, watching my marriage die in real time. When they were finally finished, I watched Sean. I'd figured out his name from their pillow talk, get dressed and kiss my wife goodbye. "Same time next week?" he asked. "Actually," Lana said, "Julian's got that conference in Portland next month, 3 whole days. Perfect. I'll clear my schedule." After he left, I watched Lana shower in our bathroom, using the expensive body wash I'd bought her for her birthday. Watched her change the sheets and spray air freshener around the room. Watched her practice her story in the mirror, complete with fake yawns and complaints about Tara's uncomfortable couch. She was good. Really good. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I would have believed every word, but I had seen it. And I'd recorded every second. By the time the sun came up, I'd made my decision. Lana wanted to play games? Fine. But she'd picked the wrong paramedic to cheat on. Because the thing about being a paramedic is that you learn to stay calm under pressure. You learn to think fast, act decisively, and most importantly, you learn that sometimes the only way to save someone is to let them hit rock bottom first. And my wife was about to discover that I'd been taking very detailed notes on exactly how far that was. I called in sick to work the next morning, which was only the 3rd time I'd done that in 5 years. My supervisor didn't question it. After the night we'd had, everyone needed a break. Lana came home around noon, carrying a bag from Dunkin' Donuts and wearing yesterday's clothes with just enough wrinkles to sell the story. "Hey, babe," she said, kissing me on the forehead. "You look tired. Rough night?" The usual. 3 car accidents, 2 overdoses, and a guy who thought he could fix his own electrical outlet. I looked up from my coffee. "How was your girls' night?" "Oh, you know Tara. She had me up until 4 talking about her relationship problems. That girl needs therapy, not wine." Lana rolled her eyes and headed for the shower. "I'm exhausted." "I'll bet you are," I thought, watching her disappear upstairs. While she showered, I did what any reasonable husband would do in my situation. I went through her purse. Her phone was locked, but Lana had never been creative with passwords. It was our anniversary date, same as always. Her text messages were a gold mine. Sean Murdoch, real estate developer according to his contact info, owned 3 luxury properties in town and drove a BMW that probably cost more than my annual salary. The text thread between them went back 6 months. 6 months. While I was working overtime to save for the vacation she said she wanted. While I was picking up extra shifts so she could quit her job at the photography studio and start her own business. While I was being the supportive husband she claimed to need. The messages started innocent enough. Professional stuff about a property she was photographing for him. then lunch meetings, then drinks, then messages I had to stop reading before I put my fist through the wall. But the most recent exchange was what really caught my attention. Sean, can't wait for next Friday, booked us the penthouse suite at the Marriott downtown. Lana, perfect. I'll tell Julian I'm visiting my sister in Boston. Sean, 3 days, just us, going to spoil you rotten. Lana, you already do. Can't wait to get away from all this suburban bullshit. Suburban bullshit. That's what our life together was to her. 4 years of marriage reduced to suburban bullshit. I screenshotted everything, then put her phone back exactly where I'd found it. When Lana came downstairs 20 minutes later, hair still damp, and wearing the robe I'd bought her last Christmas, I was sitting at the kitchen table reading the newspaper like nothing had happened. "What do you want to do today?" she asked, pouring herself coffee. "Actually, I was thinking about calling Mike and Dave, seeing if they want to grab lunch at Murphy's. I feel like I haven't seen the guys in forever." Her face tightened almost imperceptibly. "Oh, I was hoping we could spend some time together. I feel like we've both been so busy lately." Busy, that was one way to put it. "Rain check? I already texted them." It was a lie, but I wanted to see her reaction. Lana hated my friends, always had. She thought they were beneath us, too blue-collar for her taste. Mike was a firefighter, Dave worked construction, and according to my wife, they were holding me back from my potential. "Fine," she said, but I could hear the irritation in her voice. "I'll probably go shopping with Tara anyway." Another lie. Tara was working a double shift at the hospital. I'd checked the schedule. I spent the afternoon at Murphy's Bar, a dive on the south side of town that served the best wings and coldest beer in a 50-mile radius. Mike and Dave were already there when I arrived, holding down our usual table in the back corner. "Look what the cat dragged in," Dave said, raising his beer. "Thought you'd forgotten about us little people." "Never," I said, sliding into the booth. "Just been busy with work." "And the missus," Mike added with a grin. "How's Lana? Still trying to turn you into a real estate mogul?" If only he knew. "She's good. Actually, she's been talking about taking a trip to visit her sister next week. Girls' weekend thing." Dave snorted. "Lucky you. Sarah's been on my ass about remodeling the bathroom. I keep telling her we can't afford it, but she saw some show on HGTV, and now she thinks we're living in a cave." We spent the next 3 hours talking about work, sports, and the general frustrations of married life. Normal stuff. The kind of conversation I'd had with these guys 100 times before. But this time, I was listening differently. "You know what your problem is, Julian?" Mike said around his 4th beer. "You're too nice. Lana walks all over you and you just take it." "She doesn't walk all over me." "Bullshit. When's the last time you hung out with us without asking her permission first?" I opened my mouth to argue, then closed it. He was right. "And remember that time she made you cancel our camping trip because her book club was having some emergency meeting?" Dave added. "What kind of emergency does a book club have?" I remembered. I'd been looking forward to that trip for months, but Lana had insisted she needed me home. Turned out the book club meeting was canceled, and she'd spent the weekend at some spa with Tara, or so she'd said. "Look, man," Mike continued, "I'm not trying to cause problems in your marriage, but you've changed since you got married. You used to have a backbone." "I still have a backbone." "Then prove it. Stop letting her make all the decisions. You're a grown man, not a trained dog." I wanted to tell them everything. About the camera, about Sean, about the text messages and the lies, and the way she'd looked at another man in our bedroom. But something held me back. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was the small part of me that still hoped I was wrong, that there was some explanation that would make everything okay. Or maybe I was already planning my revenge and didn't want witnesses. I got home around 6 to find Lana in the kitchen making dinner. She was wearing a new dress, something I'd never seen before. Red, expensive looking, with a neckline that showed just enough to be interesting. "How were the boys?" she asked, without looking up from the stove. Good, Dave's thinking about buying a boat. With what money? Doesn't he still owe you $500 from that poker game? She was right, but the way she said it made my teeth clench. Like Dave was some kind of deadbeat instead of a guy who'd worked 2 jobs to put his kids through college. It's not that much money, Lana. It is to us. We're trying to save for the house, remember? The house. Another lie. We had plenty of money saved. I'd been checking our accounts. But apparently Lana had other plans for our future. Speaking of which, she continued, I've been thinking about that trip to see my sister next week. Maybe I should cancel. The timing isn't great with everything going on at work. I looked up from my beer. What's going on at work? Oh, just some drama with one of my clients. Nothing major, but I should probably stick around and handle it. She was backing out of her weekend with Sean. But why? Don't cancel on my account, I said. You've been looking forward to seeing Rachel. I know, but... Seriously, Lana, go. I'll be fine. She studied my face, and for a moment, I thought she could see right through me. Then she smiled, and I realized she was just trying to figure out if I suspected anything. You're sure? Positive. Besides, it'll give me a chance to catch up on some projects around the house. Okay, if you're sure. I'm sure. That night, after Lana fell asleep, I went back to my workshop and started planning. I had 6 days before her trip with Sean. 6 days to gather evidence, document everything, and figure out exactly how I wanted to handle this. Because Mike was right about one thing. I had changed since I got married. I'd become passive, accommodating, willing to let other people make decisions for me. But the old Julian was still in there somewhere. The guy who'd talked a jumper off a bridge last year. The guy who'd performed CPR on a kid for 20 minutes until the helicopter arrived. The guy who didn't give up, no matter how bad things looked. That Julian was about to make a comeback. And my cheating wife had no idea what was coming. The call came at 2:17 a.m. on Thursday morning. I was lying in bed next to Lana, staring at the ceiling and listening to her breathe, when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Stop digging or you'll regret it. I sat up, suddenly wide awake. Lana stirred beside me but didn't wake up. I grabbed my phone and headed for the bathroom. The number wasn't in my contacts, but a quick reverse lookup told me everything I needed to know. Sean Murdoch. Somehow he'd figured out I was onto them. I typed back, "Not sure what you mean." The response came immediately. "Don't play dumb. Stay away from what doesn't concern you." My wife concerns me. Not for much longer. I stared at that message for a long time, feeling something cold and sharp settle in my chest. Not for much longer. What the hell was that supposed to mean? I went back to bed, but I didn't sleep. Instead, I lay there planning, thinking through every angle, every possibility. By the time my alarm went off at 6, I'd made my decision. It was time to have a conversation with my friends. I found Mike and Dave at Murphy's that afternoon. Same table, same beer, same bullshit conversation about work and women and everything wrong with the world. But this time, I wasn't just listening. "I need to tell you guys something," I said, cutting off Dave's story about his neighbor's barking dog. They both looked at me, probably surprised by the serious tone in my voice. "Lana's cheating on me." The words hung in the air like smoke. Mike set down his beer. Dave stopped chewing his wing. "Jesus, Julian," Mike said finally. "Are you sure?" "Positive. I have it on video." I told them everything. The lies, the text messages, the camera, Sean Murdoch and his BMW and his penthouse suite at the Marriott. I told them about the threats, about Lana's weekend trip that wasn't really to visit her sister, about 6 months of deception that had turned my marriage into a joke. When I finished, Dave was shaking his head. "That snake. I never liked her, but this—" "What are you going to do?" Mike asked. "I'm not sure yet, but I'm not just going to roll over and take it." "Good," Dave said. "It's about time you grew a pair." But Mike looked worried. "Just be careful, man. Don't do anything stupid. Divorce is expensive enough without adding assault charges. I'm not going to assault anyone, but I'm not going to make it easy for them either. We spent the next hour brainstorming. Dave, whose ex-wife had cleaned him out in their divorce, was all for scorched earth tactics. Hire a private investigator. Get everything documented. Take her for every penny. Mike, who'd been happily married for 15 years, was more cautious. Maybe you should try talking to her first. Give her a chance to explain. Explain what? 6 months of lies? People make mistakes, Julian. Maybe she's going through something. Don't. The word came out harder than I'd intended. Don't make excuses for her. She made her choice. Mike held up his hands. Okay, you're right. I just don't want to see you do something you'll regret. But I was past regret. I was moving into territory I'd never explored before, and it felt dangerous and exhilarating at the same time. That night, I confronted Lana. She was in the living room, watching some reality show about housewives and their manufactured drama, when I walked in with her phone in my hand. We need to talk. She looked up, saw the phone, and her face went white. Julian, I can explain. 6 months. I set the phone on the coffee table between us. 6 months you've been screwing Sean Murdoch. She opened her mouth, closed it, then tried again. How did you... Does it matter? The question is, what are we going to do about it? For a moment, she looked like she might cry. Then something shifted in her expression, and I saw the woman I'd married disappear completely. You went through my phone? You violated my privacy? Your privacy? I laughed, and it sounded bitter even to me. You've been sleeping with another man in our bed, and you're worried about privacy? It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. I have video, Lana, from our bedroom, last Saturday night, while you were supposedly at Tara's having a girls' weekend. The color drained from her face completely. You recorded us? I recorded my wife cheating on me in my own house. Yes. She stood up, pacing to the window, then back to the couch. Okay, you're right. I've been seeing Sean, but it's complicated. Complicated how? I love you, Julian, I do. But Sean, he offers me things you can't. Like what? Money? Security. A future. He's successful, he's going places. And I'm not? She looked at me for a long moment, and I saw the truth in her eyes before she spoke it. You're a paramedic. You'll always be a paramedic. You're happy with this little life, this little house, this little town. But I want more. So you decided to trade up? It's not like that. Then what is it like, Lana? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you've been auditioning for a new husband while keeping me around as backup. She didn't deny it. That's what hurt the most. Not the cheating, not the lies, but the fact that she couldn't even pretend I was wrong. I never meant for it to happen, she said finally. But you're not sorry it did. Again, no denial. What do you want from me? She asked. Do you want me to end it with Sean? Do you want to try counseling? What? I looked at my wife, really looked at her, and realized I was talking to a stranger. The woman I'd married, the one who'd promised to love me for better or worse, was gone. Maybe she'd never existed at all. I want you to pack a bag and get out of my house. Julian, tonight, go stay with Sean, or Tara, or whoever. I don't care, but I want you gone. You can't just throw me out. I live here too. Actually, I can. The house is in my name. Check the deed. It was true. We'd bought the house before we got married, and I'd never bothered to add her name to the title. At the time, it had seemed like an oversight. Now it felt like providence. This is crazy, she said. You're overreacting. We can work through this. No, we can't, because you don't want to work through it. You want to have your cake and eat it too. You want Sean's money and my stability. You want the excitement of an affair and the security of a marriage, but you can't have both. And if I choose you? The question hung between us, and for just a moment, I wondered what I would say if she meant it. If she was willing to cut all contact with Sean, go to counseling, fight for our marriage. But I could see in her eyes that it was just another manipulation. She was calculating, trying to figure out which option would cost her the least. "You already chose," I said. "6 months ago." She packed 2 bags and left that night. No tears, no dramatic speeches, no begging for forgiveness. Just cold efficiency, like she was checking out of a hotel. The last thing she said to me was, "You'll regret this, Julian. Sean's not going to let you embarrass him." Is that a threat? It's a fact. After she left, I sat in my empty house and waited to feel something. Relief, sadness, anger, anything. But all I felt was numb. My phone buzzed. A text from Mike. "How'd it go?" I typed back. "She's gone." "You okay?" I looked around my living room, at the empty space where Lana's things used to be, at the silence that felt both peaceful and terrifying. Getting there. But I wasn't. Not really. Because this wasn't over. Lana's parting words had made that clear. Sean Murdoch wasn't the type of man who liked being embarrassed, and I'd just humiliated him by taking away his married girlfriend, which meant the real war was just beginning. Sean made his move 3 days later. I was at work, halfway through a 12-hour shift, when my captain called me into his office. Captain Rogers was a good man, fair but tough, the kind of boss who'd go to bat for his people if they deserved it. "Sit down, Julian," he said, and I knew from his tone that this wasn't going to be good news. "What's going on, Cap?" "I got a call this morning from the chief. Someone filed a complaint against you." My stomach dropped. What kind of complaint? "Harassment. Stalking. The caller claims you've been following him, threatening him, making his life hell because of some dispute over your wife." Sean. It had to be. "That's bullshit, Cap. Complete bullshit." I figured as much, but I have to ask, are you going through some personal issues right now? Divorce, anything like that? I'd always been straight with Rogers, and I wasn't going to start lying now. "Lana and I separated this week. She was having an affair." He nodded slowly. "I'm sorry to hear that. Divorce is rough, but you haven't been doing anything that could be construed as harassment, have you?" "No, sir. I haven't even seen the guy since I found out about the affair." "Good. Because this complaint is serious, Julian. The caller claims you installed surveillance equipment in his home, vandalized his car, and threatened him at his workplace." None of it was true, but I could see how Sean might spin it that way. The camera in my own bedroom could be twisted into surveillance equipment. My knowledge of his affair could be painted as stalking, and my text responses to his threats could look like harassment if you removed the context. "Cap, I swear to you I haven't done any of those things." "I believe you, but I'm going to need you to be extra careful for the next few weeks. No contact with this guy no matter what. If he provokes you, walk away. If he threatens you, call the police. Don't give him any ammunition to use against you." "Understood. And Julian, you might want to think about getting a lawyer, just in case." I left Rogers' office feeling like I'd been sucker punched. Sean was playing chess while I was playing checkers, using the system against me before I even knew the game had started. But if he wanted to escalate things, I was happy to oblige. That afternoon, I drove to Sean's office building, a gleaming glass tower downtown that screamed new money and compensation issues. I didn't go inside. Rogers had been clear about avoiding contact, but I sat in my truck across the street and watched. Sean Murdoch Development occupied the entire 15th floor. The lobby directory listed him as CEO, which was impressive for a guy who looked like he was barely 40. Either he was very good at his job, or he'd had help getting where he was. I was about to leave when I saw him. Sean walked out of the building at exactly 5:30, wearing a different expensive suit and checking his phone like he was running late for something important. He got into a silver BMW, the same one I'd seen in my driveway that night, and pulled into traffic. I followed at a distance, staying 3 cars back, using techniques I'd learned from watching too many cop shows. He didn't go home. Instead, he drove to the Marriott downtown, the same hotel where he'd planned to take Lana for their romantic weekend. He parked in the covered garage and took the elevator up. I waited in the lobby for 20 minutes before he came back down, now dressed in jeans and a polo shirt. He looked relaxed, confident, like a man who'd just solved all his problems. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Enjoying the show? I looked around the lobby, but I didn't see Sean anywhere. Another text. You're not as smart as you think you are. Then, check your email. My hands were shaking as I opened my email app. There was a new message from an account I didn't recognize, with a video attachment. The video was security footage from the hotel garage, showing me sitting in my truck, clearly watching Sean's car. The timestamp was from 15 minutes ago. The message was simple. Stop following me or I'll have you arrested for stalking. I sat in the hotel lobby, staring at my phone, realizing I'd been completely outplayed. Sean had known I was following him. He'd probably been counting on it, setting me up to look like the obsessed ex-husband who couldn't let go. But two could play that game. I drove home and spent the evening researching Sean Murdoch. Public records, business filings, social media profiles, anything I could find. What I discovered was interesting. Sean's company was successful, but it was also highly leveraged. He'd borrowed heavily to finance his projects, using his personal assets as collateral. His divorce from his first wife had been messy and expensive, and according to several online reviews, he had a reputation for cutting corners and screwing over subcontractors. More importantly, he had enemies. Lots of them. I spent the next 2 days reaching out to those enemies. Former business partners who'd been cheated, contractors who'd never been paid, ex-employees who'd been fired for asking inconvenient questions. What I learned painted a picture of a man who was successful on the surface, but rotten underneath. Sean Murdoch was a bully, a cheat, and a fraud. He just happened to be good at hiding it. But everyone has secrets, and I was very good at finding them. The breakthrough came on Friday afternoon. A former employee named Marcus Webb agreed to meet me at a diner on the outskirts of town. Marcus had worked as Sean's project manager for 2 years before being fired for insubordination. What he means is, I wouldn't help him hide code violations, Marcus told me over coffee and pie. Sean cuts corners everywhere. Substandard materials, unlicensed contractors, bribed inspectors. I kept telling him someone was going to get hurt, but he didn't care. Do you have proof? Marcus smiled grimly. I kept copies of everything. Photos, emails, invoices. I was planning to turn him into the state, but then I got fired and couldn't afford the legal battle. What if I told you I might be able to help with that? I'd say you've got my attention. We talked for another hour. By the time I left the diner, I had a flash drive full of evidence that could destroy Sean's business and possibly land him in prison. But I wasn't ready to use it yet. First, I wanted him to know I had it. That night I sent Sean a text from a burner phone. Marcus Webb says hello. The response came within minutes. What do you want? To talk. Tomorrow night, Murphy's Bar, 8 p.m. Come alone. Or what? Or I send Marcus's files to the state attorney general. There was a long pause. Then, you're making a big mistake. Maybe. But it's my mistake to make. I spent Saturday preparing for what I knew would be the most important conversation of my life. Sean was dangerous, connected, and desperate. But he was also cornered, which made him predictable. And predictable men make mistakes. Murphy's Bar was crowded on Saturday night, which was exactly what I'd hoped for. Plenty of witnesses, plenty of noise, plenty of places to hide if things went bad. Sean arrived at 8:15, 15 minutes late. A power play, meant to show me who was in control. He was wearing jeans and a leather jacket, trying to look casual, but I could see the tension in his shoulders. He slid into the booth across from me without saying hello. You've got 5 minutes, he said. That's all I need. I want you to leave my wife alone. Your wife left you, remember? She's with me now. Because you manipulated her, fed her lies about the kind of life you could give her. Sean laughed. I didn't have to manipulate anyone. Lana came to me. She was tired of being married to a loser. The insult hit its mark, but I didn't let it show. Maybe. But she doesn't know what kind of man you really are, does she? And what kind of man is that? I slid the flash drive across the table. The kind who uses substandard concrete in apartment foundations. The kind who bribes building inspectors and threatens whistleblowers. The kind who's going to prison when this gets out. Sean stared at the drive for a long moment, then looked back at me. You have no idea what you're dealing with. I know exactly what I'm dealing with. A fraud who's been living on borrowed time. You think you can blackmail me? I think I can destroy you. The question is whether you're smart enough to walk away before I do. Sean leaned forward, his voice dropping to a whisper. Listen to me very carefully, you pathetic piece of shit. I own this town. I own judges, cops, city council members. You're a paramedic who drives a 10-year-old truck and lives in a house that's worth less than I spend on suits. You think you can threaten me? I think I already have. He stared at me for another long moment, then smiled. It was the coldest expression I'd ever seen. You want a war? Fine. But don't say I didn't warn you. He stood up and walked out, leaving the flash drive on the table. I sat there for another hour, drinking beer and thinking about what I'd just started. Sean was right about one thing. He had power, connections, resources I couldn't match, but he'd made one crucial mistake. He'd underestimated me, and that was going to cost him everything. Sean's counterattack came at dawn on Monday morning. I was getting ready for work when I heard the sirens. 3 police cars pulled into my driveway, followed by an unmarked sedan that screamed, "Detective." I watched from my bedroom window as 6 officers took positions around my house. The knock on my front door was polite, but firm. Julian Price, Detective Sarah Morrison, Metro Police, we have a warrant to search your home. I read the warrant carefully. They were looking for surveillance equipment, computers, phones, and any materials related to the harassment and stalking of Sean Murdoch. This is bullshit, I told Detective Morrison. I haven't harassed anyone. That's not what Mr. Murdoch says. He claims you've been following him, threatening him, and conducting illegal surveillance. He's provided evidence. Evidence. Right. The same security footage he'd used to set me up at the hotel. I called in sick to work and spent the next 4 hours watching police officers tear apart my house. They found the camera equipment in my basement, my computers, my phones. They found the flash drive Marcus had given me and the printed emails I'd been using to build my case against Sean. What they didn't find was anything illegal. The camera had been in my own bedroom, recording my own wife. The emails were given to me voluntarily by a former employee. The surveillance photos were taken from public property, but I could see how it would look to a jury. We're going to need you to come downtown for questioning, Detective Morrison said as her team finished bagging evidence. Am I under arrest? Not yet. But Mr. Murdoch is considering filing charges for stalking and harassment. We need to get your side of the story. I spent 6 hours at the police station, answering the same questions over and over. Yes, my wife had been having an affair with Sean Murdoch. Yes, I'd followed him once. Yes, I'd sent him threatening text messages. But no, I hadn't stalked him. No, I hadn't harassed him. And no, I wasn't some obsessed ex-husband who couldn't let go. Look, I told Detective Morrison during our final interview. Sean Murdoch is a criminal. I have evidence that he's been cutting corners on construction projects, bribing inspectors, using substandard materials. People could die because of what he's doing. That's a serious accusation. Do you have proof? I did, until your people confiscated it this morning. She made a note in her file. We'll look into it. But right now, our concern is your behavior toward Mr. Murdoch. My behavior. He's the one who stole my wife. Mr. Murdoch didn't steal anyone. Your wife made a choice. She was right, and it stung. But it didn't change the fact that Sean was using the system to silence me. They released me that evening with a warning to stay away from Sean Murdoch and his properties. Any contact, direct or indirect, would result in immediate arrest. I drove home to find my house still in chaos from the search. Furniture overturned, drawers emptied, electronics missing. It looked like I'd been robbed. My phone rang. Mike. Jesus Christ, Julian, what the hell happened? Dave drove by your house and said it looked like a crime scene. I told him everything. The warrant, the search, the interrogation at the police station. Mike listened without interrupting, but I could hear him getting angrier with each detail. That snake, he said when I finished. He's trying to frame you. It's working. Half the evidence I had against him is now sitting in a police evidence locker. So what are you going to do? Good question. Sean had outmaneuvered me again, using his connections and resources to turn me into the bad guy. The police thought I was a stalker. My job was in jeopardy, and Lana was probably laughing about it with her new boyfriend. But I wasn't done yet. I'm going to finish what I started. Julian, you need to be careful. This guy's connected. He could destroy your life. He's already destroyed my life. Now it's my turn. I spent that night cleaning up my house and planning my next move. Sean thought he'd won, but he'd made a crucial mistake. He'd shown his hand too early, revealed just how far he was willing to go to protect himself. That desperation was going to be his downfall. Tuesday morning, I called in sick again and drove to the city courthouse. If Sean wanted to play legal games, I'd show him how the game was really played. I filed for divorce, citing adultery and abandonment. I requested an emergency hearing to freeze our joint assets. And I filed a complaint with the State Attorney General's office about Sean's construction practices, using the information Marcus had given me. Then I did something Sean probably wasn't expecting. I called a press conference. Channel 7 News met me at Murphy's bar at 2 p.m. The reporter, a young woman named Jennifer Walsh, had been covering corruption in the construction industry for months. Mr. Price, she said, as her cameraman set up, you claim to have evidence of widespread safety violations by Sean Murdoch Development. Can you elaborate? I handed her copies of the documents Marcus had provided. Photos of substandard concrete, emails about bribed inspectors, invoices for materials that were never delivered. Sean Murdoch has been cutting corners on construction projects throughout the city, I said, looking directly into the camera. He's used substandard materials, bribed building inspectors, and threatened employees who tried to blow the whistle. And when I tried to expose him, he used his connections in the police department to silence me. That's a serious accusation. Do you have proof of police misconduct? I have proof that Mr. Murdoch filed false charges against me to discredit my evidence. Yesterday, police searched my home and confiscated documents that could expose his criminal activities. The story aired that night at 6 p.m. and 11 p.m. By Wednesday morning, it was trending on social media. The State Attorney General announced an investigation into Sean Murdoch Development. The city building department suspended permits for 3 of his projects pending safety reviews. And Sean Murdoch was furious. He called me Wednesday afternoon, screaming threats and accusations. I let it go to voicemail, then forwarded the recording to Detective Morrison. You have no idea what you've done, Sean's voice said on the recording. I'm going to destroy you. I'm going to take everything you have, everything you care about. You'll wish you'd never been born. That evening, Detective Morrison called me back. Mr. Price, we've listened to the voicemail you forwarded. Mr. Murdoch's attorney says his client was upset and spoke in anger, but we're treating it as a credible threat. We've advised him to have no further contact with you. What about the stalking charges? We're dropping them. After reviewing the evidence and Mr. Murdoch's behavior, we don't believe you pose a threat to him. It was a small victory, but I'd take it. Thursday morning brought bigger news. The State Attorney General's office raided Sean Murdoch Development, seizing computers, files, and financial records. 3 building inspectors were suspended pending investigation. And the FBI announced They were opening a federal investigation into possible corruption in the city building department. Sean's empire was crumbling, and everyone knew it. But I wasn't done yet. Friday afternoon, I got a call from Lana. "Julian, we need to talk." I thought we already said everything we needed to say. "Please, just meet me for coffee, 1 hour." Against my better judgment, I agreed. She was waiting for me at Starbucks on Main Street, looking tired and older than I remembered. The confident woman who'd left me for a better life was gone, replaced by someone who looked scared and desperate. "I made a mistake," she said before I could sit down. "Which mistake? Cheating on me or getting caught?" "All of it. Everything. I was stupid and selfish, and I threw away the best thing in my life." I sat down across from her, studying her face. "What do you want, Lana?" "I want to come home. I want to fix this." "It's too late for that." "No, it's not. We can go to counseling. We can work through this. I love you, Julian. I never stopped loving you." "You have a funny way of showing it." Tears started flowing down her cheeks. Real tears, not the fake ones she'd used to manipulate me in the past. "Sean's not who I thought he was," she said. "He's cruel and controlling and he scares me." "What did you expect? You knew he was married when you started sleeping with him." "I thought he was different. I thought he loved me. He loved the idea of you, the trophy wife, the younger woman who made him feel powerful. But when the heat got turned up, where was he?" She didn't answer, which was answer enough. "He threw you away the minute you became a liability," I continued. "Just like he'll throw away everyone else who gets too close to his business. I know that now. I was an idiot." "Yes, you were." We sat in silence for a long moment. Then Lana reached across the table and took my hand. "Can you forgive me?" I looked at my wife, my soon-to-be ex-wife, and felt something I hadn't expected. Pity. She'd traded a good marriage for fool's gold, and now she was paying the price. "I can forgive you," I said finally. "But I can't trust you, and without trust, there's no marriage." "Julian, it's over, Lana. Sign the divorce papers and move on. Find someone who makes you happy." "You made me happy." "No, I didn't. If I had, you wouldn't have cheated." I left her crying in Starbucks and drove home to my empty house. It still felt strange without her things, without her presence, but it was starting to feel like home again. My phone buzzed with a text from Mike. "Saw the news about Murdoch, FBI raid, corruption charges, the whole 9 yards. How does it feel to win?" I thought about that question as I sat in my living room, looking at the space where Lana's photos used to be. Did it feel like winning? Sean Murdoch was facing federal charges. His business was ruined, his reputation destroyed. He'd lost everything he'd worked for, everything he'd valued. My wife had left him when the money dried up, just like I'd predicted. She was alone, scared, and finally understanding the consequences of her choices. And me? I was free. Free from lies, from manipulation, from a marriage that had been built on false foundations. Yeah, it felt like winning, but more than that, it felt like justice. I poured myself a beer and raised it in a toast to my empty living room. "Here's to new beginnings," I said out loud. Outside, the sun was setting over my small town, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new possibilities, new chances to build something real. But tonight, I was content to sit in my quiet house and enjoy the sound of my own thoughts. For the first time in months, I wasn't planning revenge or plotting my next move or trying to stay one step ahead of someone else's game. I was just being Julian Price, paramedic, divorced man, survivor, and that was enough. 6 months later, Sean Murdoch was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison for fraud, bribery, and racketeering. His construction company was liquidated, his assets seized, his empire reduced to rubble. Lana moved back to her hometown in Ohio, where she got a job at a small real estate office and slowly began rebuilding her life. She sent me a Christmas card that year with a simple message: "Thank you for letting me go. Mike and Dave threw me a divorce party at Murphy's bar, complete with a cake that read, "Freedom tastes sweet." Half the fire department showed up, along with most of my co-workers from the ambulance service. "So what's next?" Dave asked as we closed down the bar at 2 a.m. "I'm thinking about going back to school," I said. "Maybe becoming a nurse practitioner or a physician's assistant. Look at you, moving up in the world." Something like that. As I drove home that night, slightly drunk and completely happy, I thought about the man I'd been a year ago, passive, accommodating, willing to let other people make decisions for me. That man was gone, replaced by someone stronger, smarter, more confident. Someone who'd learned that sometimes the only way to save yourself is to fight back. The old Julian might have just accepted his wife's betrayal, might have quietly divorced her and moved on without ever seeking justice. But the new Julian didn't give up, didn't roll over, didn't let bullies win. The new Julian fought back and won.